Hi guys, yesterday we looked at comparing and ordering fractions. Today we're going to take a look at mixed fractions and improper fractions. So I've got Mark here. He's going to help me out again. This stuff is pretty new to Mark, so he's going to be able to walk us through what we're supposed to do. Here we go. All right, we got a couple models here on the board. They're both showing us the same thing, but we're going to take a look at how we can look at them in two different ways. So Mark, let's start with the top one. So we're just going to look at the top right now. So what does that big area there represent? What do you think?
One whole.
One whole, good. So let's just put a 1 there. All right, and what does that smaller area represent? What do you think?
1/2.
1/2. Can you put a half on there? All right, so if we take 1 whole and 1/2 and we add them together, what do we have?
1 1/2.
1 and 1/2, perfect. Okay, what does that big number 1 there represent?
1 whole.
Good, so in our fraction, the big 1 represents the number of wholes. Now we've got the 1/2. In 1/2, we have a little number 1. What do we call that little number 1?
The numerator.
That's the numerator. And what does the numerator represent?
It represents the amount of pieces that you have.
The amount of pieces you have. Perfect. And what's the number 2?
The amount of pieces there are.
The amount of pieces there are, right? What it's cut into. Perfect. So what we've got there is what we call a mixed number. It's a combination of wholes and fractions. So we're going to take that same mixed number now and we're going to convert it into an improper fraction. So, Mark, how many pieces are there
3.
in the bottom one? There's 3. Can you label them for me? 1, 2, 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3 pieces. Good. Can you write equals 3? Okay, let's talk about how big each of those pieces is. What fraction of the whole does each of those pieces represent?
1/2.
1/2. Good, which means that I have 3 pieces, each being 1/2, so I have 3 halves. So can you represent that for me by writing 3 over 2? Excellent. So I've now got 3 halves. That's how we say it. We say 3 halves. 1 and 1/2 is the same thing as 3 halves. And here's our next question. This one's got a few more pieces to it, so let's get this one figured out. So let's start at the top, Mark. Can you label the holes for me?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got 1 hole there. We got another hole there. And how big is that piece?
1/4.
1/4. Good. So what does that give me? 2 holes and 1/4. So I've got 2 1/4 there. Excellent. So let's take that to the bottom where I've now got this all split up into quarters and we're kind of going to try and make an improper fraction. So let's see. Can you label the pieces there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 9 pieces. All right. How big is each piece, Mark?
1/4.
Good. So we have 9 quarters. Can
Yeah.
you show me how to write 9 quarters? Good. All right. Let's see if we can use that same thinking that we used in the first example. So write down for me how many holes there are.
2.
2 holes. So write that down. 2. How many pieces in each hole?
4.
Good. So it's 2 times 4, right? That means that in 2 holes, we would have 8 pieces, plus how many leftover pieces are there?
1.
Plus 1. So what is 2 times 4 plus 1?
9.
Good. And each piece is 1/4, so we have 9 quarters. All right, we're going to do one more practice question because Mark didn't like the idea of multiplying. He thought he could just count them like that. Well, sometimes we come across a question with bigger numbers. Next question, a little trickier. We're going to write down 12 1/3. We're going to turn 12 1/3 into an improper fraction. All right, Mark, what's your first step?
You count the holes.
Okay, and how many holes are there?
12.
Good. What next?
Then you times it by 3.
Why 3?
Because it's the denominator.
Okay, and what does the denominator tell us?
It tells us that's the amount of pieces there are.
Perfect. So let's do 12 times 3. And what else?
Plus 1.
Plus 1. Why plus 1?
Because there's another third.
There's one other third, right? Okay, so 12 times 3 plus 1 is what?
37.
Good. And then how do we decide on our denominator?
The 3.
Okay, so we've got 37 thirds, right?
Yep.
When we're doing these types of questions, the denominator never changes. If we started with thirds, we're going to end with thirds. Excellent. So we're going to take a look now at how to turn an improper fraction into a mixed number. So this is just the opposite of what we're doing before. So I've given Mark a few pieces there. How big are those pieces, Mark?
A third.
So each of those is 1/3. How many of them do you have?
4.
All right. So can you write down 4 thirds for me?
Yep.
So you have 4 thirds. Excellent. So we're going to try and figure out how many holes that's going to make for us and see if we have anything left over. So can you set those up now, Mark?
Okay.
All right, so we've got 4 thirds. How many holes is that?
1.
1. And what's left over?
A third.
Good, so we've got 1 and 1/3. So that's great if we have diagrams, but sometimes we don't have a diagram. So let's see if we can figure out a quicker way to do this. So in one hole, how many thirds are there?
3.
Good. So can you write down 3 thirds? So we've got 3 thirds, and we have one more third, right?
Yeah.
So let's write down plus 1/3. And if we remember anything about adding fractions, we know that 3 thirds plus 1/3 is 4 thirds. We also know that it is 1 and 1/3. So we're going to take a look at a couple trickier examples here. So I've got 17/4. I've got to figure out how many holes there are out of 17 pieces. So I got to know how many times does 4 go into 17. Well, I know that 4 times 4 is 16.
Yep.
So I'm going to say that it goes in 4 times. Do some long division here. And I've got a remainder of 1, which means that I have 4 holes, I have 1 piece left over, and I know that each piece is 1/4, so I've got 4 1/4. All right, I know that I'm going to do one more question here. Let's make 26/9. All right, how many times can 9 go into 26? 9 goes into 26 2 times. All right, so 9 times 2 is 18. And if I've got 26 pieces and I've already used 18, I know that I have 8 left over, and each piece is going to be 1/9. So I have 2 and 8/9. So your only assignment today is going to be to find 5 mixed numbers and turn them into improper fractions, and then find 5 improper fractions and turn them into mixed numbers. I don't care if you come up with these examples on your own, or you find a worksheet, whatever you like. Write them down on paper, send me a picture, and send it in. So 5 each way, and I'll see you again tomorrow.